In this video, I'm going to go over the top 10 mistakes that I've made growing peppers over the last 30 years, so you don't have to make those mistakes. Or if you've already made them, I'll show you how to fix them. So the first mistake I've made with peppers is something that's really easy to make. That's because in the spring, we're so anxious to get gardening that you tend to push things out a little earlier than they should be. And peppers, they need it a lot warmer than the time that we're kind of wanting to push them out. And so if we plant them out too early, peppers just don't respond well. In fact, it could stunt their growth or set them back where they never recover. So whether you're starting them from seeds indoors or you're planting transplants from the garden center, you want to wait until the right moment. When nighttime temperatures are in the 50s, mid to upper 50s and above, then you're safe to put out your peppers. That's going to make sure that not only the soil is warm enough, but also the air temperature is warm enough, so you'll be off to a really strong start. This is a little more dangerous if you're starting seeds indoors. Not more dangerous, but it's easier to push them out because you're going to see them maybe starting to outgrow their seed trays, and you're going to want to get them out of there. You might have to pot them up into something a little bit bigger and keep them indoors before moving them out if those temperatures haven't arrived yet. The second mistake you might make after the temperatures have warmed up a little bit and you're ready to put them out is either not giving them enough sun or giving them too much sun. Peppers like sun. They need at least 6 hours per day. Now, if you have too little sun, it's going to take forever for them to grow. They're not going to produce as many peppers, and you're going to wait forever for those green peppers to start turning color. You want the sunlight hours, minimum of 6 hours, but 6 to 8 hours. You want that to be morning and midday. And we want to block as much of the afternoon sun as possible. That is the strongest, hottest sun coming in there in the afternoons. So if you have a place like that, great, take advantage of it. If you don't, you're going to want to put up some shade cloth. 35% shade cloth covering where that afternoon sun hits is going to be a great thing for your peppers, because when that sun hits really strong on the fruit of your peppers, it's going to cause sun scald. And that is these blemishes that look like little dead spots. They might start to wrinkle or rot in that area. Now, if the pepper is ripe and it starts doing that, you can take the pepper, just cut that part off, and the rest is totally fine. But sometimes it starts when the pepper is just young, and then you never actually get that pepper to grow to maturity. But it's an easy fix. Just shade the afternoon sun, and you should be good. All right, we've waited to put our peppers out till the temperatures were right. We've got the right amount of sun at the right time of day. Now it's time to plant them. How far do we space them apart? Now, optimal spacing from other types of plants is about 18 inches. Peppers are hungry plants and they like to gather a lot of nutrients. If you've got neighbors' roots encroaching on their area, they're not going to be as happy. Unless it's a partner pepper plant. And this is really weird, but peppers seem to like growing in pairs. Like we're talking 2 in the same seed tray that grew. You don't have to thin one. You can actually just plant them together. And those 2, even growing that close together, are actually going to support each other, and they seem to do better with a partner. Just make sure that you take those 2 that are growing together and space them 18 inches from the next peppers or any other type of plant in the area. Now, if you're looking to save your seeds for next year, that's where spacing becomes a little more difficult. Peppers cross-pollinate very easily, and if you're looking to save sweet peppers for next year, the seeds, or hot peppers for next year, the seeds, if you plant them too close together, they're going to cross-pollinate, and next year's peppers from those seeds are going to be somewhere between hot and spicy to mild, and they'll probably run the gamut depending on the seed you plant. Now, I get this question all the time. If I plant, I'm not going to be saving my seeds, so don't worry about that. If I plant hot peppers next to sweet peppers, will that change this year's fruit? Will the spicy ones be sweet, the sweet ones be spicy? So to make it as easy to understand as possible, the fruit itself, the flesh of the pepper, if you plant a sweet pepper next to a hot pepper and they both produce fruit this year, the flesh of the sweet pepper will be sweet. The flesh of the hot pepper will be hot. However, the seeds inside them could already have the characteristics for next year's offspring. So if you plant a sweet pepper next to a hot pepper, you take a sweet pepper off, you cut it, you taste the flesh, it should be just the sweet pepper that you were expecting. However, if you take the seeds and put them in your mouth, it could be the hot pepper cross-pollinated in there, and that will make that hot even this year because they already have that hot DNA inside those seeds. Does that make sense? I hope so. Experts say you need to have sweet peppers. If you're going to be saving your seeds, you need to have sweet peppers about 400 feet from hot peppers to minimize any cross-pollination, or you could protect the flowers of the ones you're going to save seeds from by putting a mesh bag over them so the pollinators can't get in. I'm going to be doing a video later this season on how to save seeds from peppers, from tomatoes, from a bunch of things. So make sure you're subscribed. Stay tuned for that. Fourth mistake is improper watering. Now, peppers, they're a little more drought tolerant than some other vegetables and fruits that we grow in the garden. However, they do need pretty consistent water or you're going to get some issues. They still can get blossom end rot, just like tomatoes. So that is a problem to watch out for if you're not watering consistently. If you're hand watering and you've got the splashback from the soil up to the leaves, you could still be transferring soil-borne bacteria onto the leaves and viruses and things like that. So best to water from below consistently, using drip irrigation if possible. Mistake number 5 is using the wrong fertilizer. And I'm not talking about the wrong brand of fertilizer. I'm talking about the wrong NPK. Nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. Those are the 3 numbers on your bag of fertilizer. Now, you want to avoid a lot of nitrogen with peppers because a lot of nitrogen is going to produce a lot of leaves at the expense of fruit. Peppers are nitrogen hungry. When they can get it, they're going to take it. And they're going to grow to these beautiful big bushes that look nice, but they don't produce a lot of fruit. So you want something with a low first number and a higher middle number. I use Neptune's Harvest tomato and veg formula. It's a 2-4-2. It gives my peppers exactly what they, not necessarily what they want, but what they need. And I give them that about every 2 weeks. Now you can give them a little nitrogen. I add fresh compost to my beds every single spring. And so that's gonna give them nitrogen right there. I'm just not gonna give them extra nitrogen with a high nitrogen fertilizer. The 6th mistake is not pruning your peppers. And also the 6th mistake is pruning your peppers. Because where you live depends on whether or not you should be pruning your peppers. Now, if you live in a short growing season, we're talking like 3 months, you don't want to prune your peppers. And pruning just means pinching out the top growth so it makes more lateral branching, which eventually makes more fruit, but it does delay the production of fruit and the ripening. So if you live in a short growing season and you pinch your pepper out, you may not even get peppers to ripen that year. So don't do it in a short growing season. Those of you in longer growing seasons, like 6 months long, at least 6 months or more of a growing season, if you pinch your pepper out when it's about 6 to 8 inches tall, it's going to produce more side branches, which will produce more flowers, which will produce more fruit. But it will delay the harvest, and you will have to wait for more fruit. But in the end, you're going to get more fruit out of it. If you live somewhere between the 3 month and 6 month, then plant a few of each, then pinch out a few of some, leave the rest, and just watch that experiment over your growing season and see what happens. It's always great to experiment in the garden. But to prune a pepper plant, you want to wait, like I said, until they're about 6 to 8 inches tall, and then just take out the very middle top growth, and that is going to force the hormone that causes that plant to grow tall. It's going to force it back down the stem, and all the little nodes where each stem meets a leaf are going to push out new stems and leaves and flowers. It's going to make for a shorter, bushier, more compact plant. So not only will it produce more, but it's going to be less top heavy, which will require less staking. And number 7 follows that, and it's not staking your peppers. So many times the plants look, nice and wispy, but as soon as those get full of fruit and the wind picks up, it's going to just either pull the plant out of the ground, snap it off. It's not going to be a good thing. And it doesn't have to be anything special. Those tiny little bamboo canes from the garden center that come in a long bag, that's fine. It doesn't have to be heavy duty stakes. They just need something to stabilize them a little bit. Number 8 would be not harvesting. Now, it's not as much of a problem with like bell peppers. I mean, you can see big bell peppers on there, You want to pull them off when you see them ripen to the stage you like. Similar to beans and a lot of things, when the plant produces fruit, that produces seeds, and those seeds are left on the plant feels like it can retire for the year and just give up and stop making more fruit. So you don't want that to happen. So keep picking. Like I said, not a big deal with, you know, big fruited peppers, but the little shishitos or even smaller, the little sweetie drop peppers that produce like 50 to 100 on the plant, sometimes it can be difficult to keep up with that, but you want to do it so you keep getting more peppers. Number 9 is not keeping on top of pests and disease. Now, peppers don't have quite as many pests and disease as, let's say, tomatoes, cucumbers, but it's nice to keep on top of them just to make sure in your area you don't get an infestation. The biggest thing I get is leaf miner, and that is where you'll see little squiggly track lines through the leaf. That's actually a larva that the egg has been laid between the outer layers of the leaf. So even if you spray with like a pesticide, you're probably not going to get to it because it's inside the leaf. Now, just a few leaf miners are not going to give your peppers a problem. I did have an infestation one time where I had so many leaf miners that made tracks over so much of the leaf area, it actually lessened the photosynthesis and the plants did not do well at all. But, you know, very easy way to keep it from spreading is if you look in the tracks, you can sometimes see that larva there. Just squeeze that leaf right there with your fingers and you should be able to kill it that way. Now, if you're going for a more hands-off approach like I am, then I plant open-centered flowers like zinnias, rudbeckia, dahlias, things that are going to attract parasitic wasps. That parasitic wasp is going to find that larva inside the leaf. It's going to pierce the leaf and the body with its little piercer, and it's going to lay its egg inside that larva. And as that larva grows, it eats its way out of the host, which is the little leaf miner, and problem solved. Sometimes in the summer, I have an infestation of aphids. I like to use mint in the garden to bring in minute pirate bugs that will take care of some of the aphids. Some of these other flowers I mentioned as well will attract things like ladybugs and hoverflies, whose larvae are voracious aphid predators. So any of these things will work. One word of caution, adding mint to your garden, you want to put it in a pot. It can become very invasive. If you just put it in the ground, you'll never get rid of it. So put it in a pot near your pepper plants, and that should do the job. Now, one very popular thing that's been in my videos has been the aspirin trick. Usually I use this on tomatoes, but it can also be used on peppers and potatoes and eggplant, any of the nightshades, but that's all it'll work on. Every 2 weeks, you can spray an aspirin solution. Aspirin triggers the immune system of the plant and makes it think that it's under attack by pests and disease when it actually isn't. And so it bumps up its immune system to fight off this fake pest or disease. But if you spray it every 2 weeks, it's going to keep the immune system on high alert so that when these things eventually come to try to get your plant's going to be ready for it. So you can take 600 milligrams of aspirin, and you can use an uncoated aspirin or a aspirin powder, doesn't matter. Blend that up in a blender and then mix that with a gallon of water and spray it every 2 weeks all over your leaves. And this is a great idea for hot, humid climates where you get a lot of bacterial problems with your plants. Every 2 weeks, especially before wet weather, and you should see a major reduction in that. The last mistake, number 10, is you're just creating too much work for yourself. Peppers are perennials, meaning they don't just grow this year and die. They grow this year and then next year and next year and next year. I had a plant for 5 years one time, and then I moved and didn't take it with me, so I ended up losing it. Now, this is not something that just works here in Southern California where we can just leave our pepper plants in the ground. In fact, I can't do that here in Southern California. I'm more inland now. Before, we were by the beach, had pretty much no frost all winter, and we could just leave them right in the ground, and they would just come back the next year, no problem. Here, I do have to protect them So if you live in a mild climate, maybe you just get a little frost, you can just protect them with some fleece, some floating row covers. You can do this anywhere. I have viewers up in cold parts of Canada who have shown me pictures of their peppers in the winter and then again in spring when they wake them up. So if you want to know how to do that, I've got all the details right here in this video. I'll see you guys next time.